This is Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger, and you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
As the war in Gaza rages on, the influence of the Religious Zionist party, led by figures like Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben Gvir, looms large over the direction of the Israeli government. With key ministerial positions in hand, they wield considerable power in shaping policies, not only concerning the ongoing war, but also regarding broader societal issues such as military service, national identity, and economic affairs. Today, we're going to take a close look at this pivotal shift in Israeli society with our distinguished guest, Yair Ettinger, an Israeli journalist and the author of the illuminating new book, Frayed, The Disputes Unraveling Religious Zionists. Ettinger's work provides invaluable insights into the challenges facing the Religious Zionist movement, which has become increasingly influential within Israeli politics and society. Amidst the turmoil of war and political maneuvering, many questions arise about the future direction of religious Zionism and its impact on the broader Israeli landscape. Ettinger is an award-winning journalist with decades of experience. Frayed has won the 2021 Hillel Cook Award and is a finalist of the Jewish Book Council. Ettinger was a journalist for Haaretz newspaper for 20 years, and today he's one of Cannes commentators on religious affairs and writes for various outlets such as Ynet. We are super thrilled to be joined by Yair Ettinger on this episode of the Two Nice Jewish Boys podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Eitan and Naor. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming. So I have to start by asking you, let's start from the basics. Do you think the Tzionut Datit, the Smotrich and Ben Gvir party, is a legitimate party in Israeli, in the political landscape?
Legitimate? Yes, of course it is. But I'm looking at it as a journalist. So I'm aware of some tectonic movements within Tzionut Datit that brought within the Tzionut Datit a person like Ben Gvir, which in the past was an outsider or illegitimate in some parts of Tzionut Datit. Persona non grata. And Smotrich, of course, is legitimate, but he is representing part of Tzionut Datit. And that is the thing, that when you say Tzionut Datit, no doubt about both of them are Tzionut Datit, but there are so many other ways of life, ways of identities, religious identities, political identities within Tzionut Datit. So the thing is that if you were saying about someone in the past, oh, he's Dati Leumi, he's religious Zionist, it was, you knew what to expect. But now you have to ask other questions. What kind of Dati Leumi is he? Who are his rabbis? What does he think about, women's right, Temple Mount, the recruitment of Haredim, ultra-Orthodox to the army? So many questions about his own life and about public questions, issues.
So how would you, if you had to break it down, the pie chart of religious Zionism, and give us a breakdown of what the major differentiators are, how would you do that?
So I would say that there are so many kinds of definitions, but it's becoming more normal or common for researchers that making polls, surveys, researches within Tzionut Datit to ask, how do you define yourself? Are you Dati Leumi, just Dati Leumi, mainstream, not complicated Dati Leumi? Okay, this is one kind. But there are two other groups which are very important, and there is tension between them. One of them is liberal Datim Leumim, liberal, religious. There are traditionals. There are in many ways they are conservatives, small c conservatives, but they are moving with changes of women's rights, LGBT, other questions. And on the other side, there is Chardalim, which is or Toraniyim, which means more frum, more obligated to Torah or mitzvot, and in their ways of life, and also ideology. So no doubt that Smotrich, and I think, for instance, Smotrich himself would say that he is part of the Chardalim, part of this group, which is, I would say, to the right wing. But I'm not talking about political views about West Bank and stuff like that. I'm talking about questions of halakha, of society.
He's more orthodox. So no doubt about that. Smotrich himself is aware of the fact that he's part of this community. And so we're talking about three major definitions: Dati Leumi, Chardali, and liberal. But in between, you have so many other groups. But one thing that
the Team Light. This is also a very important group, and other
I feel
groups.
like one thing that ties that to an outsider. I'm not such an outsider, but I don't know. Maybe you can. This resonates with you. I feel like for most people, the Team Leumi just means you wear a knitted kipa.
Yeah.
Like, is that not enough to define a community?
So this is really interesting, because there was a TV show that named Srugim. Mm-hmm. It was back in, I think, almost 15, 20 years, I think, something like 2006.
Okay, yeah.
And it was about, affairs of bachelors, women, men, young people in the swamp, what it's called the swamp of Jerusalem. So they were called Srugim, and this was about Datim Leumiyim. And the name was so successful that people now in politics, in newspapers, you'll see the definition Srugim. What does it mean, Srugim? Knitted kippah. Because this is something that really defines Datim Leumiyim. This is the kippah that I'm wearing right now. It's
also
knitted.
The size of the kippah.
The size, the color. But the thing is that even though this cosmetic item, or how do you...
Fashion item.
Yeah, fashion item is the definition of religion, ideology. It says something about who you are. It's not really accurate. Why? Because some people who define themselves as Datim Leumiyim, they do not wear kippah. They have this transparent kippah. They don't wear it.
Like Mr. Weinstein here.
Yeah, right. So they don't wear it in the weekdays, maybe on the Shabbat, maybe sometimes, maybe occasionally. And there was one really interesting research that was made, I think, a decade ago, a long time ago, of Israel Democracy Institute, trying to dive into this huge community of Datim Leumiyim. What is Datim Leumiyim? So they found that I think the core groups that I just mentioned, Chardalim, liberals, and Datim Leumiyim, are something like 12% of Jewish society in Israel a decade ago. Okay, but when you ask people, do you define yourself or identify yourself as Dati Leumi or with Datim Leumiyim? So you find that it's 22%. So where did the extra 10% came from? Some of them are secular in their way of life. They don't keep halakha at all. Yeah. Some of them are charedim. They don't wear knitted kippah. They wear fabric or something, like
the velvet
kippah. So this is a very successful community, or successful because many people identify themselves. And this is also a lot about politics, but the 22% of Jews in Israel identified themselves with the Team Leum. This is quite amazing.
And there's another thing that would burst your the bubble of your question, Eitan, is that we mustn't forget there's a kind of an elephant in the room, that you talked about the color of the kipa, but there's also the color of the skin, because there are so many Mizrahis who wear a kipa, but they don't vote. Most of them, I would assume, don't vote for the Religious Zionist Party. And most people in the settlements are not Mizrahis. Sorry?
Who wear a kipa suga?
Yeah, they vote for Shas, they vote for Likud, mostly. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this whole elite you're talking about, this whole part of it, they're mostly Ashkenazi. So why is that?
So first of all, there is some kind of ethnic complex within Tzionut Datit. It has always been like that. I think that the thing is that the community, within the community, there are many Mizrahi and Ashkenazi. If you look at mixed marriage, between Jews of Mizrahi Jews and Ashkenazi Jews, you'll find it's very common in Datiyum Leumim, of course, much more than in Haredi community. They're still looking very much at the color of the skin. So I think that the street, the people of Tzionut Datit are, it's shifting. I would never say it's behind them, but I think there is a shift in the elite. There's still a problem, because many of the people, of the leaders, would be more of Ashkenazi.
But it has to do with the leadership, meaning usually in religious communities in Judaism, you follow a rabbi, right? And most of the Dati Leumi rabbis are Ashkenazi, Rav Kook and
that's right. But I would say this is really a little bit simplistic, because you will find in many places the mix is very natural. In many places, in Israel, in Israeli society in general, and the Datiyim Leumim are in many ways part of the Israeli society. I will just give an example. Naftali Bennett, in one of his first years in politics, he tried to bring Eli Ohana. He was a soccer star of Beitar Yerushalayim, he was two things. He was not religious, and he was a soccer player. And Ohana is from Moroccan background. So the backlash of his members of the party, of Bennett's party, was so strong that Naftali Bennett had to say, okay, this is not a good idea. He announced Eli Ohana, and then he had to
retreat.
But I think...
What do you make of this story, though?
Okay, so I'm not sure it's only about the color of his skin. I think there is also, people are looking down on the fact that he was a soccer player. There are many other examples of, and one more thing was that at the end, Ohana was out, so it means something. But Naftali Bennett's backlash from within the community said something also. So it wasn't as simple as, I think it was complex, and
because they weren't ashamed, right? The community, air quote, wasn't ashamed to just go out and say it plainly. We don't want this guy here. Yeah. Right. In other, maybe in Avodah party, they would think that, but they would probably never go so openly about it. That also says.
I don't know if that it's kind of painting a picture of like pervasive racism in the Tzionut Datit party. I don't know if we can talk about racism, because maybe they are racist towards some non-Jewish communities, but what I'm saying is like the idea that there's this prejudice, ethnic prejudice against certain other Jewish communities. I'm not sure.
I'm just saying.
I think it's a matter. I don't
know if it's so accurate.
My generation. I'm I'm from the 70s, okay? So my generation in Tzionut Datit felt it in schools, okay? Because the way of, I don't know.
How do you accept? Who do you accept?
Who do you accept? How do you daven in the morning? All these questions were in my generation. I think nowadays it's much more open.
I'm thinking about all of the
and
people.
also I see. For instance, I see if I'm looking at political figures that could be leaders or pivotal politicians in the next years. So for sure, I see few people who are Mizrahi Jews. It's not as simple as, you know.
Although Ben Gvir is a bit...
I want to say that
And
I
Ben
do
Gvir is
know
one
that
of them for sure.
He's
He's much more popular than Smotrich, and in their party there are also other people who are Mizrahi Jews. So I'm not sure.
But if you go
like
to...
personally, I know several religious Zionists that are like kipa suga that are. I mean, like I think honestly, every single one I know, almost it's hard for me to think of one that is not a mixed marriage.
Yeah,
It's very
Yemenite,
common.
but if you
Moroccan.
go to the elite
By the way,
institutions...
much more than in America, because in America, so American Jewry is very Ashkenazi, and if you have Mizrahi Jews, it's very separate. It's very it's not mixing.
Different
Of
shuls,
course.
different...
different shuls, different areas, different youth movements. It's really.
But if you go to Eli, which is one of the pinnacles of the religious Zionist society is the Mechinot,
Right.
which you can explain better than me in 1 minute what they are. But if you go to the Mechina in Eli, you tell me what's the percentage of Mizrahis there?
Oh, you'll have you'll have a lot.
Half.
I'm not sure, but it's very it's more than in the past. And the thing is, I'm not sure. I'm not really with the. I don't know. I don't have actually the data, but I think the thing is, it's very interesting because the Datim Leumim, Tzionut Datit is it's very dynamic. Each and every generation or few years, there is different focus about something, ideologically and socially and religiously. For instance, at some point, you are neo-Hasidic. You are. There is the thing of Temple Mount. There is the thing of Orthodox feminism, and of course, settlements. The Gush Emonim back in the 60s and mainly in the 70s. So it's not so much. It's a conservative movement or culture, but it's very shifting, and this is a very important thing to understand. People in Haredi world, for instance, and I think also in America, in American Jewry, if you grow up, you go with your father or mother, both of them, to their shul. It's very common in Tzionut Datit not to go to their shul, to go to a different minyan with your friends, with your Bnei Akiva youth movement, with people in your neighborhood, and it's really, really common. And this kind of movement going to, I don't know, good places, bad places, it's up to you to say, but it's very shifting. It's very dynamic all the time. And I think that if you look at the Mizrahi Ashkenazi thing, it's also part of this dynamic.
Let's talk about the book.
Okay.
So what is it about? Why did you write it?
Okay, so it's about Tzionut Datit and what's under the hood. What are the trends? What are the these kind of new trends? What are they nowadays? And why? And I had the feeling at one point that it's really hard, first of all, to define what is Tzionut Datit. And as a journalist in Haaretz covering religious issues, I noticed that a lot of the struggles about religion and state are bringing in as rivals part of Tzionut Datit against other part of Tzionut Datit. For instance, 10 years ago, there were so many struggles around chief rabbinate of Israel. Chief rabbinate for secular Israelis was for many years like the bad guys. Okay, but at some point, it became people who didn't like or lost their patience towards chief rabbinate were datim lumim, whereas the defenders of chief rabbinate and people of the system at the same time were also tzionut datit. So what's going on here? And then I came to schools or shuls or communities struggling about really ideological, interesting stuff, such as feminism within egalitarian meanings, women as leaders of religious leaders. Temple Mount brought really as rivals people from Tzionut Datit from both sides. So what's going on here? And all these struggles were really concentrated in a few years. I said, okay, I have to explore this, to write about this, and to let other people read the story of, which is really dramatic, I think.
So
No, I want to ask about, I think it's I think something that really has been building up in the last, I don't know, decade and a half, maybe more, but from my perspective in the last decade and a half in Israel. And you mentioned a couple of times Naftali Bennett.
Right.
And I think you also mentioned the invisible kipa, and he's probably the one who's gotten the closest to an invisible kipa before the kipa becoming invisible.
Right.
It's like, barely noticeable.
You need
from some angles, you're not sure if he's wearing it or
telescope to see.
So Rabbi Ovadia Yosef,
Yeah.
he knew Naftali Bennett, and he thought he was the leader of Shas. He was one of the most important rabbis of the century, if I may. But he was from the Haredi side, and he knew Naftali Bennett, and he said that he had like a very colorful language, sometimes insulting language, and he said his kippah, it's in the size of his eyes. That's what he said. Yeah.
It's following the same pattern as his hair. It's disappearing. But so what I want to know is, Naftali Bennett, I feel like is represents. He joined forces with Yair Ettinger eventually, and kind of partnered up with non-religious people, and so he's definitely this representative of like some kind of movement within the religious Zionists. So where does he fit into the story? And
so Naftali Bennett, I think, is really. It's a line. It's something that happened. It's a game changer. His appearance in Dati Leumi politics changed a lot. He came to the Tzionut Datit, to the Habayit HaYehudi, which was some kind of role of Mafdal, the ancient Dati Leumi party. He came when it was just 3 seats out of 120 in the Knesset. And he came as a rock star. And he came with his tiny kippah. And he came with his charisma. And the charisma was stronger than other people who viewed themselves as the leaders, such as rabbis. And he was not obeying rabbis. He said, I'm consulting rabbis in politics, but I'm not obeying rabbis in politics. I am myself. I am what I am. And it's known that he was not dati for a few years. He was no doubt he was a different politician, different dati politician.
Married to a secular woman, right?
Married to a secular woman, and from his first day in politics, he said something like that: I am running in a dati party, in a religious party, but my senior partner is Yair Ettinger. She's not dati. She's secular, and there is common ground that we are acting or stepping on, and we are right-wingers for Eretz Israel, for other causes, but she's not Datiya. And this is something that was really important because he said, okay, we are Datiim, we are used to think of ourselves as a sector. We are a minority, we are very much defined from the outside world. We're not Haredim, we're not secular. But he said, this is something new. I'm Dati, I'm religious, but I think that I'm post sectorial, means that I can cooperate with other parts of Jewish
With Lapid.
society. With Lapid, Brita Achim.
Yeah.
We are alliance of brothers. So this is really interesting. The people of the establishment, of the political establishment, of the rabbinical establishment, opposed. They said, okay, well, what's going on? He brings us 12. He brought the party from 3 seats to 12 seats. No doubt, he was a rock star.
Broke like a glass ceiling.
Yeah, but so this is a good thing. We have much more power, but within the party, within the mechanism, we have less power. So some people, for more hardliners, said, Naftali Bennett, we suspect him. We don't like him so much. And this is something that was all the years of Naftali Bennett. It was in the background, and I think this was also the ground that brought Bezalel Smotrich eventually to power.
We also can't ignore the. Someone's got to give it a name by now. The great
theft.
The great theft.
The
great betrayal.
Grand Theft Auto.
The Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Bennett.
Yeah.
The Grand Theft Bennett. Like that moment where what was it in 2019, 20? I don't remember.
Yeah.
No.
21.
22.
I don't know. It's all black.
22.
Those years.
2020 was the end.
Corona.
Was the end.
So anyway, when Bennett basically a large part of his constituency felt betrayed because he promised not to sit with Lapid, and he promised not to sit with left-wing
the Arab parties
and he left Netanyahu outside of his government,
and he left Netanyahu
and Haredim outside of his government, and he was trying to form a new alliance, which is secular. Zioni.
So can you say that is it safe to say that he stretched the Dati Leumi? Like you're talking about this like really elastic rubber band that's almost undefinable. Can we say that Naftali Bennett stretched it to the point of breaking?
Yes, I would say so, but even before that. So the question is, Naftali Bennett, he was two things. First of all, he was a politician. So I think this political act was not so clever. He lost his base at this point. But I think that I'm looking at Naftali Bennett, he was not only a politician, he was trying to, maybe he was also naive. He thought that if he forms this alliance, this Israeli alliance, that people will follow him. This was maybe something that also other people from the same sector did for many, many years. They thought, oh, we're going to Judah and Samaria, everyone will follow us eventually. We're bringing something good, something valuable. For sure, people will join us at the end. So I think Naftali Bennett was also not such a good politician at this point, but he was also naive. He was trying to say, my ethos is Israeli. I'm trying to form something here, and it failed for sure. It failed so strongly. It had no chance anyhow. But I think that the Bezalel Smotrich owes him the last cadention, because I don't know if he was so successful, because so many people from the right-wing, white-ringers, Datiim, are angry at Naftali Bennett. They would, I don't know if they're going to forgive him forever, right? For this thing.
So that brings us to
but
Bezalel Smotrich
yeah, sure.
and Ben Gvir.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit how that came about and what they represent within the communities, and where do you see this? Because Ben Gvir, it feels like, is also a bit of a stretch,
Right.
for much of the community.
For sure. Ben Gvir, he considers himself as Tzionut Datit, even though he says all the time he is Mizrahi. He came from a traditional house. He wasn't. He wasn't from a classic education of Tzionut Datit. It was something else, and also he represents Kahana. Yeah, he was brought up in Kach, in Kahana's movement. It's really interesting, the Kahana shift within Tzionut Datit. This is something
within all Israeli society,
all
right.
Israeli, for sure, all Israeli society,
and even the left sometimes.
Yeah, even the left. Kahana was, as you know, he was in the Knesset for one kadention in the 80s, when he was going up to the stage to talk to the Knesset. People from the right-wing parties or part of right-wing parties left.
Mm-hmm.
People from Tzionut Datit, some Rabbanit Melamed, Batsheva Melamed, she said to me, she established or started Arutz Sheva when it was they were outlaw, right? Out in the sea. And she said that she knew Rabbi Kahana, and she asked him, "Are you Tzionut Datit?" And he said, "I'm not Tzionut Datit. I'm not religious Zionist. This is something else. I'm not with Rabbi Cook. I'm not with your old definitions. I'm something else." And at some point, 40 years later, Kahana's
ideology,
it's inside. It's inside Israeli. It's became normal in Israeli society, and also in Tzionut Datit. It's very normal. So what happened? It's really complicated to answer. I don't know if you have if we have 3 hours now, but I think it has a lot to do with Netanyahu's decisions, alliance, and strategy, political strategy in the last years. It was he said that it's just a technical block. It's not really ideological, but now we witnessed that in the municipal elections that we had just a couple of weeks ago, Likud and Otzma Yehudit, this is the party of Ben Gvir, they combined, they ran together in Tel Aviv, here in Tel Aviv. So we see it's more than technical. And this is a shift that happened. They were outside, they were illegitimate in some parts of Israeli society, and now they're legitimate. Mm-hmm. What does it mean? It has meanings. It says something for sure. It wasn't that way in the past. Today, but at the same time, by the way, Ben Gvir, if you ask him, "Are you Tzionut Datit?" As I said, he will say, "I am Tzionut Datit," but my party is bigger than Tzionut Datit because I am the one who is the bridge to other parts of Israeli society which are not knitted kipa.
But it's true.
It's true.
Like if he runs today, he gets half of his mandates from kipa and half of his mandates without the kipa.
No doubt. What happened in the last 2 elections, I think, was that Ben Gvir was the choice for many people in Israeli periphery, in small towns, not in Tel Aviv. Soldiers, they view him as leader, as someone with answer.
But if we look at,
I think it's important to note that we can't ignore the events of the last couple of months. I mean, October 7th definitely played a part in this shift. rightward, also towards, I think rightward in general, but also towards Ben Gvir and Otzma Yehudit. I think a lot of people are looking towards that as...
Right. But this is weird because Ben Gvir is the minister...
of internal security.
And in so many ways he failed as a minister. If you're looking at the rate of murders and things that happened before October 7th, but I think that politics today is a lot about identity, about what you say, what your image is, and the fact that there's no one and ideas. But there is no one right to Ben Gvir, right? Mm-hmm. So for sure, if all the Israeli politics society is moving towards the right, Ben Gvir will gain anyway, no matter what he does, no matter his actions.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. That is the thing. And you see, by the way, I'm more focused on Smotrich because he's more classical Tzionut Datit, and he's
lost. He's lost. Not passing the threshold in the polls.
Yeah, he's dependent on Ben Gvir,
and it was vice versa in the elections. We had 5 elections in 4 years, in 3 years, and I think in 1, in 2, like Ben Gvir, there was a whole. It's hard to remember already, but there was a whole dance there. Ben Gvir is with Smotrich, he's by himself. He ran by himself. He didn't pass the threshold. And in the end, this time around, they ran together. Mm-hmm. Right, and they passed big time. They got good results, but still was like Smotrich carried Ben Gvir on his back. But it wasn't clear.
It wasn't clear. But now it's clear.
Yeah, it turned.
Right. So the thing is, let's move a little bit to our focus to the deep Tzionut Datit. Okay.
Okay.
So I think it's more interesting to look at Bennett, Smotrich. It's a struggle. They're nemesis, okay? They don't like each other. They cooperated in the past, but they don't like each other. And both of them really represent different segments of Tzionut Datit. Bennett is Dati light, okay? And he's I don't know if he's liberal. Yeah, he is liberal in many ways for LGBT, for women, and stuff like that. And Smotrich is much more to the right. If you're looking really boiling issues right now is the question of Haredim in the army. So no doubt, if you're looking at both of these segments, Smotrich says something which is, we have to go very softly. It's a process. Let's negotiate. Let's talk. Let's understand each other. And on the other side, which is really now the center of Tzionut Datit, people are losing their patience towards those process and slow trends within the Haredi society. Are they going to go to the army or not? This has been going on for too many years. So what I'm saying is that this is the real tension between Bennett or Bennett type and Smotrich type. And what happens now is that, or what happened in the last elections was that Smotrich gained from what you said, from Bennett's mistakes or lies, I don't know, whatever. Smotrich gained. But what will happen now in the last elections and those after? Mm-hmm. It's like a pendulum.
Yeah.
It's something. It's going to move because some people are looking at Bezalel Smotrich. They voted for him. They could be mainstream Tzionut Datit, and they're saying, not this time. Next time I'm going to look for, maybe not Naftali Bennett, but someone from more normal.
Yossi Cohen or
Likud. Or maybe someone from Tzionut Datit. Mm-hmm. Maybe Ashkenazi or Mizrahi, I don't know.
But they won't pass threshold, probably.
I don't know, but
we saw it now with Shaked in the last election. She tried to aim for those more moderate.
Right, but maybe Shaked and Bennett they have their personal problem. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that if you're looking now at Israeli parties, in the past you had Mafdal, you had one religious Zionist party
with clear ideology.
Clear ideology. It was monopoly of politics, of ideas. This was the lab, this was the party, this was the institution, right? And you had maybe one Knesset members from the Likud wearing kippah, even from labor wearing kippah. But now, look at the parties. You have so many Datiyim Leumim in almost every Jewish party. And in Gantz's party, Machane Mamlachti, Yesh Atid, Likud, many people from Tzionut Datit party, Smotrich party, Ben Gvir's Otzma Yehudit. What else? What did I forget? Lieberman's party. What I'm saying is all these members of party, which are also members of religious Zionist community, they say, oh, listen, we are authentic representatives of Tzionut Datit. But we think we can't agree on so many things.
But I think maybe that's what's beautiful about religious Zionism, and maybe I'm revealing my bias, is that, I mean, in the end, like, you don't want anybody you don't want a monopoly on ideology. I mean, that's the worst thing for free thinking and free speech. You want an open discourse and have multitude of ideas. And I think there is the one thing that does tie religious Zionists together is like two very basic things. One is what makes up their name, right? Which is a strong sort of sense of patriotism towards the Jewish state, right? And the second thing is some affinity towards religion between non-secular, like being the least religious, and not Haredi being the most religious. Like that's I think what defines, in my view, religious Zionists.
I agree with you, and this is also an answer for your question. What brought me to this book or to write about this? This is so fascinating. The fact that it's not boring anymore. There is no monopoly. There is no one institution. If you're looking at Haredi politics, it's still monopoly. There is one party, Mo'etzet Dolei Torah, which is the council of rabbis, and the decisions and the actions and the orders comes from one central body to the people. It wasn't that way. It was never that way in Tzionut Datit. It was never. But it seemed like it was much more concentrated in one place, not only in the party, also in yeshivot. I'm looking at in the book about yeshiva world. There used to be
like a lakmus.
Right. There used to be Merkaz Harav. Merkaz Harav is the yeshiva. If you're looking, it's really important, but it was much more important in the past than today, because today there is privatization. There is so many trends, so many kinds of yeshivot, so many kinds of rabbis and ideology. You can't talk about monopolies. Chief rabbinate was also institution that was so important to Tzionut Datit. It was part of Tzionut Datit theology of messianic view of we're coming back to the land of Israel. We have to have a halachic authority, which is chief rabbinate, but it lost its consensus.
But
there's no consensus around.
Do you think, like, if we look at the bigger picture, do you think that because today still the ultra-Orthodox, they have a monopoly on the way religion is being managed in Israel, right? They control the Rabbanut in the end of the day. They control Giyur. They control every powerful crossroads in Israel religious relations. So will it shift? Do you think, like, we never saw an actual battle? Right? We never saw, because it feels like the religious Zionists, they have a bit of a complex, they don't see themselves as good enough to usurp, basically. Usurp the ultra-Orthodox. So will we see a change you think, in that world?
So it goes back to the question: what kind of Dati Leumi are you? If you're looking at, if you're asking Bezalel Smotrich, so he's looking at the Haredim,
Looking up to them,
and at least as partners. This is his real alliance with Haredim. It's really funny. We're ahead of Purim. Someone took Bezalel Smotrich customs for like year after year after year after year, and he found out that every year his custom is a Haredi Jew, like different hats, but always Haredi Jew. It says something, I think. Okay. But if you ask people, if you ask Matan Kahana, for instance, which is also a Knesset member, he used to be the Minister of Religion Affairs. He's challenging the Haredi establishment or Haredi rule over rabbinate. He doesn't accept it. And I think if you ask in the street, so many people with knitted kipa, they would say, we don't like the chief rabbinate. They don't define anything for us religiously. Some people will say, okay, as long as it's for some issues, yes, some issues no. The thing is, it's a question. The chief rabbinate is a question. So for your question,
who knows?
It depends what kind of Dati Leumi are you. Do you challenge the Haredi world, the Haredi way of thinking, religious halakha? It's a lot about halakha. I'm focusing in the book. I have a lot of halachic questions, which are new questions, new answers.
Can you give an example?
Question of LGBT. Do you have a way to look at LGBT in your community? Someone who is openly gay. What do you say to him? Can he be part of the community? Because in the past, you did not ask that question, and if you are LGBT, you had to choose or to live in lie or to leave religion.
But are
to
there
live the
really
community.
religious Zionist communities in which LGBT that aren't on the fringe that accept homosexual openly homosexual
I
couples?
think so, but it's First of all, I think yes.
But it's rare, no?
I
mean,
come from Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, it's not rare. It's not rare. It's not only in the fringes.
Really?
Really.
I'm thinking of my parents' community, for example, in Shaarei Tikva. They live in a mixed yeshuv, but I can't imagine someone in my father's Bet Knesset being openly gay. And they live together with secular people. Like the next door neighbor could be non-religious and gay, and they'd be fine with it. But someone in the Bet Knesset, like someone in the synagogue.
Also, I know someone in Petah Tikva. Petah Tikva, it's really like old, most conservative Dati Leumi community. It's not very common, but he was really groundbreaking. He was the first one who wrote in Makor Rishon, which is a newspaper, very much religious Zionist newspaper. He wrote about the fact that he's gay, and I know what shul he's davening at. I'll tell you
but now
something.
you have Haredim coming out too, Sherki and...
Sherki is not Hared.
He's not really
Really, and I wanted to say about Sherki. Sherki, my friend, he did something really, really big. He's a very much well-known journalist in Israel, Channel 12, and he said at some point, I love God and I love man. And I'm not giving up anything.
Yeah.
Both of them are my identity. This was dramatic, I'm telling you. And he came from very, very, very Chardali community.
And he didn't pay a big, heavy price?
Maybe yes, but also you can't go clean. That everybody will applaud and say you are my hero. Of course, some people said this is criticize him.
But do you know if he still prays in the same shul like he did?
I'm sure no. But I will tell you something. I'm coming now, we're in Tel Aviv. I'm coming from Jerusalem. Jerusalem is really New York of religious Zionist world. All the new trends are coming from Jerusalem. Everything is coming from Jerusalem. I can tell you about things that you wouldn't believe that happened 10, 15 years ago also already in Jerusalem. About shuls, egalitarian shuls, LGBT people within the community living outside. This is something new.
Yeah.
And when I said halachic questions, it's halachic because people I'm talking about LGBT, but it could be anything else, would ask the question, what can we do? Because we are not liberals as we don't have boundaries. We are religious. I love God, right? So how can you live a complete life as observant Jew and still be LGBT? How can you, think about egalitarian world, men and women, where Torah is not so much egalitarian? How can you
Bridge the gap.
Bridge the gap. Thank you. How can you bridge the gap? And this is something that people are doing. I'm not trying to say this is the whole of the Jewish religious Zionist community. Not at all. It happens in parts of it, in many ways.
Yeah.
And there are so many new things that happening.
I can't help but think one thing during this conversation and relating to the war, and how, in the end of the day, people like Smotrich and Ben Gvir, they stuck to their ideology, even though every day the incitement, and the hate and the fear of them in the mainstream media, in the social media, in the left, in the high society of Tel Aviv, in the culture scene, it's endless. They stuck to their truth. And now, when you hear in live TV, in Channel 12, blonde Ashkenazi girl from one of the kibbutzim of Otef Aza, who says, when I get back, I want to see the sea view from my kibbutz. Vis-a-vis Gaza should be wiped out, Hiroshima style, right? What she says basically is Kahana was right. And when people now in the left and in the right say there are no innocent people in Gaza, then I can't help but think, they stuck to their ideology, and all Israeli society is now shifting to their position. So what do you make of that in the long run?
So we can talk generally about the crisis of identities in Israel right now. It's a major thing. Everyone have to ask new questions after October 7th. Everyone does that. Some people are confused. Some people are really thinking new things. For instance, many people in the left said the problem is 67, and people now understand that maybe it's more than 67. Other people in the right, more to the religious right, would say the solution is Gush Katif. Let's build it back, the settlements in Gaza. But they see, the public of Israel is not there. It's not yet there, and Netanyahu is not there, by the way. And it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. This is something. It's just talking.
I'm not sure.
It's just talking, because Israel. You know why? Netanyahu is not there, and the soldiers are not there. If you will try to send soldiers to rebuild Gush Katif, you'll find people are saying no, thank you. I'm not here. I'm not in this. This is not my mission. And I'm not saying all of them. Even if 10, 20, 30, I think it's more, 30% would say no, I'm not obeying this order. This is a major issue in Israeli people's army. Right? It's not going to happen. That's why I'm saying it's not going to happen. I'm not talking about America, about Biden, what he thinks about it. It ain't going to happen. But what I'm saying is that all these kind of axioma, these things that we say, you have to ask new questions, new answers.
Except if you're a religious Zionist. I think they, after October 7th, feel sad, but I told you so mainly. They didn't shift their ideology one bit, and it says something. It says something because, as you said, they were, Tzionut Datit was not always, of course, they're more conservatives for 120 years. It's a movement of orthodoxy, more traditional, more conservative, for sure. But the new adventure of Judah and Samaria was a new thing at one point in Tzionut Datit. It wasn't always like that. And there was opposition within the Mafdal, within the party, for these new boys in the block that's saying, let's go to Judea and Samaria. It wasn't easy. There was a clash. And, at some point back in the 80s, I remember in the 80s, there were a party. There was a party, Meimad, which was a center... Left to the center, which is the Tilumi. Nowadays, just last week, there was some kind of convention of a Smola Emuni. It's the left people from left wing of religious, traditional. This is tiny. What I'm saying is that, of course, you're right, because most of the Tzionut Datit, mainly after, in the last 2 decades, or 3 decades, is with Eretz Yisrael Hashlema. Most, like 90-something%, this is self-definition. I think 95% of the Tim Lumim define themselves as right-wing. And if most of Israelis went to the right, so it means that they changed less, for sure. I have one last thing I have to ask, because people.
By the way, can I say something?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the disengagement.
Right.
Disengagement was
pivotal
so
point.
important. Earthquake. You know what? Most of the changes that I'm writing about, happened after 2005. Not always directly because of it, but...
And now the circle is closed.
It's closed.
History has...
Closed, but it's not going to rebuild. They're not going to rebuild Gush Katif. I think
we shall see. I think in the long run...
I think we need to open a wager.
Yeah, no. I think maybe not in the next 2 years. But if you look in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I think it will be inevitable.
Okay, but invite me when you...
Yeah. But what I wanted to ask you is about one word that's always being slammed at this community. And it's really in the public debate, which is messianics. Right? They tell them about Gaza, settlement in Gaza, messianics.
Right.
The settlement movement, messianic. So is there a basis for that accusation? Are they messianic?
Why do you say accusation? It's not an accusation.
I saw Ben Gvir at least...
I would say derogatory.
It's misused.
It's used as a derogatory term.
Misused, that's what he said. I'm not sure.
Yeah, misused.
But okay, let me tell you something. This is a very good question for me, for the for I don't know if
your area of expertise.
Okay. As I said, Tzionut Datit is a movement 121 years old, or 22. It began in Europe with Rabbi Reines, which was very much pragmatic Jew. He said we can be part of Tzionut, we can go along with as Orthodox Jews, but we're not going. It wasn't so charismatic. It was we can be Orthodox and still Zionist. And then came Rabbi Kook after him in Eretz Yisrael, and he said, "No, I'm not as I'm a better Zionist than the Zionists, and I'm a better Orthodox than Haredim. I'm doing something new here." And Rabbi Kook for sure was messianic. His ideology, his books, his view of history was messianic. I agree with you, by the way, and I don't like it. The people are using messianic as an insult. It's not the thing. And they misuse messianic. But for sure, people who view themselves as students or pupils of Rabbi Kook, they view history as messianic. We are doing something big here. Something big is happening. The thing is, that's why I'm saying this is, thank you for your question, because for 120 years, there are two main tracks of being Dati Leumi. One of them is more pragmatic, realistic, Rabbi Reines, and the other one is more messianic, more, I don't want to say revolutionary, but wanted to change Zionism to something else, and to change Judaism or Orthodoxy to something else, to bring something, a movement which is charismatic, new, and then enthusiasm to Israel, to Israeli culture. So these two tracks are moving along for 120 years, and you see in every junction of 67, 48, 67, 2000, October 7th, you see in every corner they have different answers for the different questions. I don't know. Should we do a hostage deal right now? People from different parts of Tzionut Datit will give you different answers. And if you look at these two tracks, you'll see that it had a connection with this background, these roots, yes.
Mm-hmm. Tov, so the book is called Frayed by Yair Ettinger. Is it on Amazon, Kindle, everywhere?
Yes.
Bookshops in America?
Bookshops in America.
Awesome. And you do talks, you do lectures,
I hope to go to America. We're working on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But if people want to reach out, they can reach you out. You're on social media.
Yes, Twitter mainly, but also
Ettinger
Facebook,
with 2 T's.
Double T.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
It's fascinating.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Really, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you on the next one, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.